You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Make sure you silence your phone. That's good.
Okay, welcome to the Village of Wappers Falls monthly regular meeting, the Mayor and Board of Trustees. Today's Wednesday, December 11th. Can you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Recognition.
I have one thing here for the clerk. So New York State Conference of Mayors and Municipalities presents this 35-year certificate to public service to John Card, Wappingers Falls.
Oh, thank you. Mayor.
Right.
I would just like to say that I had the privilege of working with 9 different mayors over my 35-plus years, and many trustees, board members, officials, and of course the residents. And it's been an honor for me to do that. I just enjoy this job immensely. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, John.
Okay, Dutchess County St. Patrick's Parade Committee has started reorganizing, and they would like a member of this board to attend their meetings. I believe they hold them monthly.
So we usually do two. Could Trustee Tilchek be interested, myself?
Sure.
All right. Maybe we can get the police commissioner to come with us also.
Roll call. Mayor Huber.
Present.
Trustee Nicholas.
Here.
Trustee Tilisek.
Here.
Trustee Mosh.
Here.
Trustee Marshall. Trustee Ruffin. Absent. Trustee Smith.
Here.
Village Attorney Lindars.
Here.
Approval of the regular village board meeting minutes, November 12th, 24.
Can you get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Who seconded that?
Bob?
Special village board meeting minutes, November 26th.
Can you get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Authorization to pay bills as per approved warrants.
Can we get a motion?
I'll make it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Can we get a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Local Law 3 of the year 2024, repealing Chapter 32 Traffic Violations Bureau, Chapter 104 Parking, Chapter 143 Vehicles and Traffic in their entirety, and replacing them with Chapter 143 Traffic. Any questions, board?
Anybody got any questions on this?
Is that the resolution that's, or the thing that you drafted with Mike?
Correct. Should be Mike,
So now,
Walt.
this is the one that has where on, I went over it with Ian on 143-58, which is different numbers. It's really like, it's 3,000 pounds. So in other words, our car, I can't go down my road because I'll get a ticket. I think they're meaning 30,000. And I don't know, I'd like to have that clarified.
I don't think that 3,000, your car could go down that. Your car could go down that road at 3,000 pounds.
No, well, it's 3,000 pounds the weight limit.
So, I can weigh in on this. So, the section that trustee Marshall is discussing is a section that is actually not amended by this local law at all. It's what's currently in your code. This local law is, it's doing a couple things. Predominantly what it's doing is it is codifying our snow ordinance. It is establishing regulations for EV parking. It is also creating a more consistent 4-hour time frame for parking in the downtown area. And it's cleaned up conflicting language. It's cleaned up a lot of misspellings and errors within the code and things that are named but don't exist. It's cleaned up some of those as well. If there's a 3,000-pound issue in there that was not within the purview of what we did, that's still in your code. It was before, it will be now, something we can amend on the second go-around. But essentially, this was a fairly large undertaking to amend all of these laws in one actual amendment.
Okay, what I'm getting from you, Ian, I think it is that this has been so bad for probably 40 or 50 years that nobody has really paid attention to cleaning this up. And now he's cleaned up a little bit of it, and we need to revisit this to clean up some more. Am I correct, Ian?
I would like to think a lot of it, but yes, you are correct.
Yeah. We need a lot more cleaning up.
Yeah.
Does this include the snow ordinance?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Could you explain how that's going to work?
So the snow ordinance works is, if the National Weather Service has issued a winter storm warning or advisory or a blizzard, you will not be able to park on the streets. If there is no snow event or any advisories or warnings, you can park on the streets. But as soon as them advisories and warnings come in, you have to find a home for your car for the night.
What if you don't?
Shouldn't that
Well,
snow
that-
say ice and snow?
Any advisory in the winter.
What if,
Yeah, it's 24 hours before. If they don't,
because I heard there was something to do with summonses and also possibly towing the vehicle.
correct.
Okay, so who's going to be responsible for towing the vehicle?
The vehicle owner.
I'm sorry?
The vehicle owner,
Okay, but who's going, I'm saying who's responsible for making the call?
it would come off the tow list. So it would be either the highway super or the police commissioner. Or not the commissioner, but, and someone in the police department itself.
Okay, so but a police officer would have to issue a summons first, right? Because this is technically considered an impound. If you tow a registered vehicle off of the street, it's considered an impound, right?
Yeah,
So there would have to be a paper trail
Yes.
for that, so people, now, what about the signage? Is it gonna change? You're gonna change the signages?
So
How much is that gonna
I've
cost?
talked to the foreman, and I showed him a picture that I recently saw in the town of Fishkill, and they're doing the same thing.
Okay,
And it's gonna be a fairly big sign.
and what price is that gonna cost the village to change that?
I don't know yet.
And do we have a contract with a specific tow?
The police department has a tow list that they
Okay.
use, so
And
they're,
on that specific tow, on the tow list, is there, has the town, or the village actually contracted with these people that it's only one price that they can charge for this?
no.
Okay, so I could get my car towed and it would cost me 200, and my next door neighbor, because he's being towed by a different company, could get charged 300, is that correct?
Possibility, the possibility.
Okay, that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, the answer then is not to park your car on the streets when there's a snow event. That's the core issue. We've got to get people, we don't need to have the streets cleared and have cars in the way of the snowplows. We have to get the cars off the streets.
Really?
Yeah,
Gosh, thanks for the information.
you're welcome.
you know what?
But my point is not that. My point is that there are going to be people who are gonna break the law. There are gonna be people who are gonna park inevitably on the street. I'm not one of them.
I understand.
So I have I have no horse in this race. I'm just worried about logistically how this is gonna all play out.
Correct.
Okay, and I'm somebody who likes to plan ahead. I don't like to just fly by the seat of my pants going, oh, well, we never thought of that. So I wanna find out if you guys had actually thought about that. Because like I said, there's gotta be a paper trail involved, so you have a police officer. Now, how much overtime is it gonna cost for the village to go back and clean up what they couldn't do the first time.
Well, hopefully they would just drive by that street until that problem has been corrected. So if we call a towing company to move the car, it-
But I'm just saying, there's just too many ifs in there for me. That's all.
Yeah, well, Tommy, you had an incident, you had to go down the street, pluck snow, and back all the way up, and then go down the other end of the street and back in because there was cars there.
Yes, correct.
So, you know what?
On multiple streets, no, I'm just, multiple.
Yeah.
Multiple streets throughout all the woods.
So this is going to have to play in the fact that
Yeah.
the police are gonna have to work with us.
Again, that process is already in place, it already exists, nothing has changed with regards to that, so
Well, the thing
that's,
that's changed, that's not true, because the thing that's changed is that originally, no one was allowed to park on the street
From certain
from
days.
December first till March first or whatever. So that's not true, it has changed.
no, the snow
Now-
ordinance has changed, the towing and the process for towing has not changed, that's
Okay,
essentially.
but we're talking about the snow ordinance and how it's gonna relate to towing is what I'm concerned about. And how much overtime is gonna be spent having to, for somebody who, you know, we're always talking about we don't have the money for this and we don't have the money for that. It just seems kind of like, I don't know how that's productive to be able to pay overtime to highway to have to go out after these cars are removed, because, let's face it, you know, not everybody's gonna pay attention to the law. I do, but not everybody is going to.
But-
And I'm just somebody who doesn't like sometimes laws.
And I understand what you're saying, but even under the old system, when there was a snow ordinance from December until March, people parked illegally and we had to tow them. We're not changing the means by which we tow or the overtime by which we plow, we're merely changing the dates when that's in effect.
No,
Because
You're not changing the dates.
Just changing the
It's
time.
if.
the times,
If it snows, if it
Yeah.
doesn't snow, if it, you know, and that's what I'm saying. Me personally, I don't like what if laws.
Yeah.
You know, it's iffy. I like laws to be permanent. This is what happens when this happens.
It's been in effect for so many years, I don't know why.
I don't know why it has to be changed either.
the village just has grown where there's so many cars and
The
Well,
snow
what are
ordinance is very direct.
Cars gonna do, they're gonna fold up and put in their pocket when there's a storm?
I mean,
The snow ordinance is laid out in the code, it's very detailed as to when and how the snow ordinance comes into effect. And it's not iffy, it's not what if there is a
No,
national
there-
weather issues an advisory for, there's 5 different things you can issue an advisory for.
And
then
what
you
if
can't
they
park there.
don't- What if it just snows and they didn't give an advisory?
What if I didn't see the speeding sign and I get pulled over by the commissioner? I get a ticket, that's what happens. It's the
Right.
law that's put in
But
place.
you know that. You know if you speed, you're gonna get a ticket.
Forget it this way.
I'm
You're
just,
gonna
I
get-
just don't, I'm not somebody that agrees with it.
You're gonna get
We can just
people,
leave it at that. You
you're gonna
guys
get
wanna
people
do
on a
it?
Friday night
I don't know about you,
partying.
you don't live in
They're not gonna move their vehicle, so therefore, there are gonna be piles of vehicles. It's the way it's gonna happen. Until it unfolds and smacks us in the face, nobody gonna wake up.
Okay.
I know. Here's the guy right.
Didn't you say that in the event, and when they give the advice?
Yes.
If it says it's going to snow, you gotta get your
Blink told me
car.
that, that's why it was changed.
So even if it's not a severe weather advisory?
Yes, there's a,
It's in any weather advisory.
any weather advisory.
Sleet,
Okay.
snow, anything that causes the plow to come out and do,
Mayor, I don't-
activities to clear the road.
So it's blizzard warnings, ice storm warnings, snow squall warnings, winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories.
Okay, are there any other questions from the public? No further questions. We have a motion to close the hearing.
Get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Well, is there a second?
I'll second,
All in favor? John.
all right.
Opposed? Carried. Hearing's closed.
Village of Wapner's Falls Village Board Resolution Number 4224 of 2024, resolution adopting local law 3 of the year 2024, repealing Chapter 32 Traffic Violations Bureau, Chapter 104 Parking, and Chapter 143. vehicles and traffic and their entirety and replacing them with a new chapter 143 vehicles and traffic.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
To Trustee Smith's question, yes, this would be the resolution adopting the local law that we just had a public hearing for, correct?
Who would second that?
Nobody yet. Is there a second?
I did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 3924, 2024, resolution of the Village of Wapius Ford Board of Trustees, whereas CSEA Bargaining Unit, Article 5, Section 1 states that an employee department head will establish the employee's work schedule, which may differ from the normal hours of operations of the department, depending upon the particular needs and requirements of the department. Can I have a motion?
I have two questions.
I just want to explain this real quick.
As do I.
I just want to explain this real quick.
Questions will be at the end of the meeting.
Now, when
No,
we
this
gotta get our questions.
We're gonna do this
before
one.
you guys
We are?
vote.
Yeah.
Well, they gotta get in.
Listen, I want to explain this one real quick. So this law, or this resolution, is for the dispatchers, police assistants. Their new hours will be from 8 to 4, 4 to midnight. I just recently got the schedule from the police department, so this board can overlook and take a look and see how they manage to work 20 hours a week for the police officers. If this is good, and the board finds it good, they can bring the police officers back, so that will make the dispatchers go from midnight to 8.
Why is it on?
Because if again, I just got this, and if they're over their 20 hours on here, which I just breezed through real quick, and it looks pretty good, I just breezed through it real quick, I didn't study it, neither has the board, I'll make them copies. The board would wanna see something like this, to watch this, because we don't wanna go over 20 hours with the officers. We wanna work them all year round, not 10 months out of the year, so this way we can work the officers and everybody can work the same. So if it doesn't, the why it's not on there, because if it doesn't comply with in January, then we have to notify the CSEA because it's a change of their hours.
So you're not doing away with the dispatch?
We're not doing away with this, we're not doing away with dispatchers.
That package.
But if it does, if everything is okay for January.
You want me to tell you what
we're back
page?
to 3 shifts, you know, morning, afternoon, and overnight. It's not on here that we can work 12 to 8. It's saying our hours are only 8 to 4, 4 to 12.
Right.
Yeah,
So can we update this?
it's open for discussion. But one at a time, one at a time.
So can we update this to include midnight to 8? Because otherwise, when January comes, the ordinance go back to work, nothing's saying that we can work 12 to 8.
Are you willing to withdraw the resolution to include
And
the 12
add
to 8 hours?
12 to 8.
If the board is willing to do that, then.
Someone make a motion to withdraw this resolution to instate as of midnight, January 1st, 2025, the dispatchers that are available to work the 12 to 8 shift will be assigned that shift. Is anybody willing to withdraw that resolution and amend it?
And add, yeah, and then it includes.
I would like to make that motion.
Has everybody looked at this?
Well, hold on, procedurally, we have a motion pending and a second. So,
Depending on what?
Who made the motion?
No.
No, we didn't make a motion.
made a motion.
It would have to be
We'd have
midnight.
to table this.
I thought,
12/31, so 0001.
Wrong one.
I just want to
I'm in
say
here
add.
predominantly just for this, because you have no,
John.
12 to 8. And, I know the police are aware of it because they do it. But some people may think because they're in bed sleeping, they're safe. I'm living in a senior citizen community right now, that from anytime after 12 o'clock, there's party hardy, ODing, and everything in that place. And we can't get a cop because you don't have a 12 to 8. Now, I was raised in law enforcement, you need 3 shifts.
What community, if you don't mind me asking, what community you live in?
Right behind Home Depot. And my property manager is fantastic. Our during that time, they have to go do the well check to see if this woman, they are trying very hard to get a court date to get her out of the building.
Do you do the well check?
Absolutely.
Yes, they do. There was a
Absolutely. We
well
have
check
two
done
different systems that are
just
currently in
today,
place.
there was a well check.
We have the automatic one that comes through the Lexus Nexus.
No, we didn't make a motion, we got a table.
But I mean,
And then we
this
do
is,
control
this lady's
normally.
having people coming in, at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, partying hard, she was on the second floor, and everything.
know-
And I lived there with my daughter and my great
You know
grandson.
the super, right?
He's fantastic.
Yes. Did you ever go to him about?
Oh, he knows all about it. They got cameras and everything. They got it on film. They're not waiting for a court date to get her evicted. I mean, they're doing everything. I gotta say that the people, the property manager and the super there are fantastic. You can't, and we've got security cameras all over. And now people are feeling that they gotta go get the ring. I actually just went and got the ring. Yeah, and they've got so much footage. And then, they're being told that they don't wanna get the little guy, they wanna get the big guy. Well, grab the little guy and let them flip on the bigger guy.
Mr. Mayor?
This is ridiculous.
We have a motion on the floor.
No, who made the motion? I don't think we have a motion.
No, we
And
don't
I'm,
have a motion.
We really-
I'm gonna make a motion, we
I made a
table,
motion to amend the,
pardon me? I'm gonna make a motion, we table this to review all the concerns people have, and we bring it back in a future date. To see if we wanna add 12 to 8.
If I may, the future date is gonna exceed
It's gonna,
when we need to have this in effect, midnight, the 31st.
Well, I don't see how we can change, can we change something today?
it's gonna succeed our 3-week limit.
It's up to the board what you wanna do.
To notify them for civil service to put a thing on us. I just would like to make amendment that we include this night shift for the dispatchers when the police come back.
The officers are coming back. That's in
Yeah.
writing, that's been agreed upon by the mayor.
Yes.
And if I may, we've been told, on the record and off the record, I'm here representing the PDA. Everybody knows who I am. I'm Detective Weaver. The PD land, same thing. Bottom line is, this board needs to make a decision whether you're gonna fully support the police department 20 days from now. 20 days and 3 hours from now.
We need to get them.
Make
on
that
board.
decision and make it public, make it on record that you're willing to change the hours to concert with CSEA's request or vice versa to mirror image and parallel the police officers that will be back midnight, New Year's Eve into the 1st of January.
That's what I just
The
said.
board needs to make that decision tonight. You have 20 days.
That's the decision that I made. I don't want to table this. I would like to get it
You
through.
need to do it tonight.
I made the motion. Do I have a second?
Well, then, do we have a motion on the floor, Ian?
No, we have nothing.
You have a
There's no motion
resolution
on the
that was
floor.
put out saying the midnight date shift doesn't
We have
exist.
no motion, so Bobby can make it.
I'll make the motion to include the dispatchers for the midnight shift. Once we come back with first of the year.
I'll second the motion.
We need to put on here.
You just made a motion in public, and it's
So there's a
seconded.
motion and a second.
Second.
All-
it's just updating the
all in
the
favor?
current resolution, correct?
So can we clarify the language?
Okay,
That,
Mr. Attorney,
so
sir?
he's made a motion to amend
The resolution.
the resolution, which I don't believe, because I thought there was a motion
No.
and a second on it.
No, there
So,
wasn't a
so in order to get to that, to be, the ability to amend it, you have to make the original motion, someone second it, the discussion occurs, someone would like to make an amendment to it, you would make the motion to amend. That needs a second, the board needs to vote, then there would be a secondary vote on the motion as amended. That's the procedure.
Okay, I made the motion and Joe seconded it.
Now, the motion to amend, I guess we
No.
have the first.
can you reverse
Correct.
it?
So the.
Let's
so the
go
clerk
back to
needs-
15 minutes ago. Resolution 3924, 2024. Resolution of the Village of Wappingers Falls, whereas the CSEA CBA Article 5, Section 1 states that an employee's department head will establish the employee's work schedule, which may differ from normal hours of operations of the department. Can I have a motion?
Yes, I make the motion that we include the dispatchers.
No,
No,
Hang on.
just make the motion.
just make the motion, then we need a
I'll make the
second.
motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Can you define department head?
Now,
Hang on,
Please.
hang on. All in favor?
Well,
no, now I have to
first there
make,
should be a discussion, and there is discussion on that.
There was a discussion.
Well, I would
Okay.
offer discussion.
Is there a
because it
discussion?
hasn't been
so
done.
now he wanted to ask about qualifying department head.
Well, who are you defining as department head to be able to make the schedule changes or define as who's doing what on the schedule?
The changes for
The
them.
department head would be the commissioner.
He did ask us if we wanted to change our hours to 8 to 1.
So now do we make the amendment after this?
Okay, so you had the discussion, now what? You want to amend it?
Motion to amend.
Well, hang on, attorney's got something.
Oh.
This particular, this is in the purview of Labor Council. You guys are now amending a document, right? Which your Labor Council has not seen or reviewed the amendment. To which it would be my recommendation that prior to any vote, prior to any action on this particular,
Prior to what you said before.
you,
Before everybody voted on it.
nobody's voted on it.
They all voted on it.
No.
They voted to pass this resolution.
No.
No, we didn't. It's just been put on the floor for
It's been put
discussion.
on the floor. So.
Put it on the floor.
So, it's my recommendation to this board that any amendment should be brought through or be presented to your Labor Council.
Can we make the amendment pending the approval of Labor Council?
That's what I'd
I
like to
would-
do, and we can do.
I absolutely would not do that.
I say we can. We make the motion and pass it tonight.
It's against advice of counsel. You can proceed.
Well,
What would your full recommendation be, and let's hear them out?
My recommendation, I'm not the labor attorney, which is why I'm making the recommendation I'm making. It would be for you to withdraw, the individual who made the motion should withdraw the motion, and a new motion should be made to table this until Labor Council has reviewed it.
yeah, but
We
we
would have
don't,
did that, but you made it sound like you could amend it right here and now.
You can, the board can.
You said they had to go before
the
Labor
Labor Council.
Council.
The Labor Council.
My recommendation is, the board was discussing, you can do both, they could do both. It's up to the board. I've just advised the board as to what their options are. They can proceed as the board sees fit.
So, hang on a second.
So,
Detective Weaver,
Yes.
how long would we actually have before you have to have the answer?
21 days.
I cannot make that decision
Well,
for the
would
board.
we be able to table this till we talk to the labor attorney, get everything right with the labor attorney, our attorney, and have a special meeting and
Correct.
that'll
This
work?
was already passed.
no, it has not.
No,
They,
Haven't voted.
No.
No,
okay, all right.
no, it hasn't.
Mr. Smith, just to answer your question, if I may, and counsel, you can correct me if I'm wrong. The people or the representative of CSEA is looking to have the 8-hour shift added to the current resolution that you're looking for. And I believe following counsel, if somebody makes that motion to add that shift upon review of the CSEA president here, if it's acceptable, I believe following whether it's the advice of counsel or against advice of counsel, the board has the decision to make within 20 days. Because that midnight shift, dispatchers need to be there to dispatch the officers that are willing and ready and capable and able to work.
So, let me see.
We can call the labor attorney during executive
if there
session to talk
was,
about
if
this.
that question's being directed to me,
It's just
We
an
got
open
20
question, sir.
We got 20 days.
Yep. No. They need more time.
Schedule.
I would give them at least a week to schedule if you're gonna hire, do the dispatcher thing, so.
You
We can
don't
talk-
have to do it tonight.
Hang on a second. We can table this into an executive session, get a hold of the labor attorney during executive session, then come back with their answer.
Can we just be clear that all we were looking for, the PBA and CSEA, is to add the
This-
12
And
to
the
8
resolution.
shift, and the resolution to be amended to reflect that?
Yes.
The resolution has
To include the midnight shift.
include the
That's all.
midnight
It
shift,
doesn't have to be
dispatches,
flower.
period. You guys are already coming.
So we can table it till executive session.
We're gonna table this to executive session.
Can I have a motion to table this to executive
Well,
session?
Before we do that, because it was the resolution was
Second.
motioned and seconded.
Hang on.
Whoever made the motion needs to make a motion to withdraw it. They are the individual who must withdraw it.
Okay. let's-
Bob, you gotta withdraw your
I'll
motion.
make a motion to withdraw my resolution. Well, the midnight shift.
Okay?
Do we have a
All in
motion?
favor?
That's
Aye.
to withdraw it.
Opposed?
Do we have a motion to table?
Now
Or
there
do
will
we
be, now there will be a motion to table this resolution, right? To the end of
second.
this agenda after an executive session.
I get a motion to table this to executive session.
Joe Nicholas did it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Are we gonna hear the decision?
If you're more than welcome to stick around
After
after
executive
executive session.
Yeah.
Are you guys gonna go, so we don't
Yeah, we'll go up in the
stand
mayor's
outside?
office because it's raining too hard to send it.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, can I be included in the executive session specifically for that resolution?
That is,
This is
that is
your-
up to the board, it's not up to myself, so we can take
I'd like
a,
to be there.
we can take a vote at the end. But I must say, if you go in, we're not allowed to, we're only there to hear you out, that's it.
I'm just here to support the CSEA president.
Yep, so if the board allows you guys in, because that's how it's supposed to work, we're only allowed to hear you out, and then we can do that, okay? All right, clerk?
Resolution 4024 of 2024, adopting the Village of Wappingers Falls 2024 Climate Vulnerability Assessment and Adaptation Plan.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Can we have one meeting here today?
Yep.
Please. Resolution 4124 of 2024, resolution introducing a local law for the year 2024, a local law to amend Chapter 151 of the Village Code entitled zoning.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Hold on
Oh,
one
hang on.
second on that. Part of this resolution is to schedule the public hearing. In the actual resolution.
That's coming up.
The public hearing date is blank, and I just want to know if we have what date the board wants. for the-
We didn't get to that yet.
But it's part of the resolution, so we should have it
Correct.
indicated as part of the resolution.
It's right on the bottom.
Yeah, so I just don't know what date to insert.
No, we're gonna get that.
But you're voting on a resolution right now that has a blank date. of
So
what
we
the
have to
date-
do that first. We have to get the date
Correct,
first.
you have to do it first.
Oh, I see, okay. So if you go to page 3, bottom of page 3. Notice hereby given, the Village Board of Trustees of Wappingers Falls will conduct a public hearing. When do you want to do it?
So, just so happens that the last Wednesday of the month is Christmas Day. I know nobody wants to come out that day.
January.
You want to do it at our January meeting, which would be.
Well, I got to post it in the paper, and it takes time to
Yeah.
get.
So our January meeting would be January 8th, our next board meeting.
Can we have a motion to do it on January 8th so I can put it in the paper?
I'll make that motion.
Oh, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay.
May I just ask one quick question regarding that? Once at that meeting, if public hearing goes well, you then vote that time, or there have to be another?
I'm pretty sure we vote that time.
So you have the public hearing, right? And it would be up to the board if they want a resolution present to adopt the law based on how it's written. And they can pass it that evening. Or if there's public comment they want to consider, then they can do one of two things, depending on what the public comment really is.
Assuming that there's no friction, it's been discussed quite a bit, they could. be
They
prepared
could,
to do it.
correct.
Okay, that's all I was wondering. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Adam.
By the way, local law is in my office if anyone wants to look at it. All in favor?
Don't you need a motion and a second on the,
Well, this is on the resolution to introduce the local law.
I think we already got it, didn't
Well, he did a motion for the public hearing date,
Yeah,
which is a belt and suspenders, but you should have a vote on the resolution introducing, so.
I'll make the
clerk is
motion.
correct.
You make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 4324, 2024, adopting the Village of Wappingers Falls 2024 Climate Vulnerability Assessment and Adaptation Plan. Oh,
Maybe get a motion?
Duplicate.
wait, we already, that was on 4024.
From the agenda.
Okay,
It's the same wording, is it the same thing?
it's the same thing. Resolution 4424, authorizing an agreement with Flock Group Incorporated for the acquisition of license plate readers, cameras, and related services for the Village of Wappingers Falls
Just
Police Department.
Just a point of order on that. Since the resolution 4324 was not a resolution, actually withdrawn. It's actually 4324 is written twice as far as the number of the resolutions. I just want to make sure the number of the resolutions is correct for the record.
2124?
It's 4324 of 2024, right? Oh, no, it's not. I'm sorry.
No.
It's, yes. So the point of order is that we just announced this as 4424. It should be 4324.
All right, 43.
Yes?
No.
Yeah.
Pardon?
4024?
No, yes,
4324, 2024.
correct. Just because the adopting the adaptation plan was duplicative in the
See,
agenda.
that's a problem with getting all these resolutions. It's just ridiculous.
All right.
So, the correct number is 4224?
4324.
4324.
We get a
Is the
motion.
block resolution, correct.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Oh, hold on, I'm sorry, just, I want to also indicate here, this was, there was a last minute amendment from the commissioner, with regards to the flock cameras. So the original motion, original resolution, the original contract was gonna be for 3 years. It was reduced to 2 years, which is reflected in the current resolution, which has been placed on the desk of all the trustees in attendance this evening. So what I would like to do is we will make a motion for that resolution. It'll be seconded. We have the discussion. There should be a motion to amend it to reflect the reduction in the term from 3 years to 2 years, as well as the corresponding reduction in price. That should be voted on, and then we can vote on the resolution as amended. So I believe it's been moved and seconded.
I have trustee Nicholas and trustee Marshall second.
So we should have a resolution to amend, as just indicated, to reduce it from a 3-year to a 2-year agreement.
Can we get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, I have the date for the legal notice.
So the amendment passes. Now we have to vote on the
Amended.
amended resolution for the flock cameras.
Can we get a motion?
It's already been moved and seconded. You just have to vote.
Yep. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We want a roll call?
Well, that's what's on the back page.
Well, it's roll call for everything, but if everybody agrees, you don't have to do the roll call.
Okay.
Does everyone agree?
Yeah.
Does anyone disagree?
So move.
Some people not even moving them now. So I don't know how you get that number. Just, I'm just saying.
Okay, we have a date set for the hearing for 151
Yep.
for January.
1-8.
Okay,
January 8th, 2025.
all right. Did I miss any resolutions along the way?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Okay. Now we'll get into the regular meeting. Approval for the mayor to sign MS4 interim progress certification, 6 months requirement report.
May I get a motion?
I will, motion.
Is there a second?
Uh,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Approval draft 2024 capital infrastructure plan.
May I get a motion on this? This should be in your packet.
In the packet.
Yep. This helps out our bond rating. It hasn't been done in a
I'll make a motion. I read that.
few years.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution that the village board hereby ratifies an agreement with CSEA dated December 2nd, 2024.
So this was tabled into an executive session.
This one too?
I believe it is, right?
Okay. Motion to hire Maxwell Runes.
I'll make that motion to her.
Is there a second? Or, yeah, second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Motion to accept resignation of Courtney Bove, police assistant, effective December 10th.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Motion to accept resignation of part-time police officer Wigfall, effective December 4th.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Now, this is,
Hang on.
this,
We want to go through the meeting.
I understand, I just wanted to just acknowledge that the resignation of Courtney Bova, she was hired full-time in the city of Nashville, PD. So she should be recognized for that honor because it's very difficult to get on that job.
Well, congratulations to Corsi Bova for going down to Nashville.
okay. Motion approving appointing election inspectors for the upcoming election to be held March 18th in this room, be expanded to outside the village but limited to within the Dutchess County.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Motion to perform the following housekeeping items, treasurer clerk. Motion to accept 33.1K received from Gov Deals for the sale of excess highway equipment and place in contingency. Next, to move from contingency to $13,345 to A5110 for highway. And move $13,500 from contingency to parks. And $17,291 from Tri-Muni, from garbage to Tri-Muni, and $11,900 to police line. Can I have a motion for those
I'll make
housekeeping?
that motion, please.
Question, if I may? So, in doing the math, we brought in 33,000, in 52. We gave out 13,345, 13,500. That left about $5,000. I'm doing the math in my head, so forgive me. But we're transferring an additional 11,900 from 1990.4, which is contingency, correct?
Yeah,
So, we are taking money out of our contingency fund, what, to the police for, I'm sorry?
well, some of it's for Tri-Muni sewer and some is for retro, garbage unit. The numbers aren't gonna come out exactly 33,052.
No, it's got
Right.
to go to Tri-Muni.
Because you already have some funds in there.
Okay.
Why is highway money leaving highway?
It's the same thing as the fire vehicle left us. We didn't-
So the reason why the money leaves is it's taxpayers' money. So the taxpayers bought the equipment and it goes back in,
For highway, so they should stay in highway.
but the taxpayers bought the equipment and it goes back in contingency. And then we can move it out of contingency to move it where we want to move it. So that's why,
Wasn't the money originally taken out of highway budget to buy those stuff?
no,
No,
It was
It's
taken
a-
out of what?
it was a whole process.
When equipment is purchased, it's not purchased under the line items
All-
of the highway?
All the vehicle payments are made out of contingency. So the taxpayers pay for the equipment.
Well, it's all our money, I guess.
It's all your money.
The point is,
The highway asks for the equipment, okay? So it does not come out of their budget line to pay for that equipment.
That's the same thing.
It comes out of
It's the
contingency.
same thing as the fire.
Can I come back to executive for like 2 minutes, just to ask questions?
If the board's willing to put you into executive session,
Just
then,
2 minutes.
then the board's willing to do it.
Well,
The only point is.
hold on, there, hold on.
That's why I know the tribunal doesn't have this money moved over.
Hold on, there needs to be a basis, a legal basis to go into an executive session. That conversation, I can't figure a basis upon which that would require an executive session.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
I can't, the board
Oh.
can't just go into executive session because it wants to. It needs to have a basis. There needs to be a stated basis as to why. So, I cannot think of a legal basis upon which your request can be granted under the code.
Why did money leave highway to go somewhere to parks? I can understand paying for sewer, because that's still under highway. Sure. And I can understand,
So I'll explain again.
There's too much.
Listen,
my thing is.
hang on,
I know
I'm gonna explain this again. So if you guys want a new truck, okay, the board approves it, the taxpayers pay for it. The highway department doesn't have a line for a new truck, okay? There's no payments on that line. It comes out of our contingency. So we would put money in contingency to pay for that truck. Even though it's a highway truck, it's not a line item in the highway department for a truck. The water department's different because they're their own entity, so they can have a line item for a vehicle. Everybody else in the village, the police department, the fire department, it's not a line item, it's just a one ticket.
This is why my fire vehicle that we're losing, we're not getting time for it. It's going over here, and they're gonna auction off the truck if we don't have the money. Meanwhile, Jason's box and his wife, 2 years.
All right, so moving on.
Okay, can I have a motion to accept the housekeeping?
Is there a motion?
I made the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay,
Carries.
John, can I interrupt and come back to the dispatchers? Because I called Rich Zuckerman, and he's gonna get back to me.
We're gonna call him an executive session, so.
Yeah, well, he made the thing to table it, to see if we can have an emergency meeting the 30th. Because the 31st is when these guys got it from me. All right, we'll have to. I know. Well, that's why I said,
Can we just finish the meeting first and we'll get to that executive session?
Schedule and write it in.
All right, clerk.
okay. On Monday, December 2nd, 2024, at William T. Gardner's monthly annual company meeting, the following members were voted into office for 2025. Can I have a motion to accept their correspondence?
Is there a motion?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay. S.W. Johnson correspondence from the December meeting for elections. They listed their officers as well. And in other business, they elected Jaheen Griffin as an active member.
Can we
Also, George Toriano moved out of the area and resigned. Can I have a motion to accept that correspondence?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Monthly updates. Police, trustee Marsh.
Okay, as we go through the list, calls for service for the month of November, 207. 6 arrests, 15 traffic tickets, 2 domestic calls, 4 larcenies, 3 drug complaints, 1 criminal mischief, 24 accidents, 2 assaults, 5 burglar alarms, 15 medical calls, 0 civilian complaints, 3 parking tickets, 0 use of force. There was 5 disputes, fights, and there were 6 calls to assist another agency. Now, New York State Police, from November 15th to November 30th, on the shift from 12 a.m. to 8 a.m., handled 16 calls. New York State Police from December 1st to today handled 5 additional calls, to the 9th. So, for the entire month that they've had to cover, for the entire dates that they've had to cover for us on the 3rd shift, there's been 21 calls. Okay? And that's my police report.
Right.
Okay.
I do want to make one other statement while we're doing that, though. I did go and inspect some of the work that was done, and I will be meeting with the contractor at the building
For the heat?
tomorrow about the heat, weather stripping, and the barricading of door.
Awesome.
Okay.
Finance Trustee Marshall.
Yeah, I don't think the bills were signed, and also I'd like to say we did pay off one note, it's the bank trust. We finally got a certified thing that we did pay off one, so we are paying our debt. We finally got that, that's why I had the extra 662 come in, instead of the 432. So, or 345. But the thing is, at least we're starting to get, I'd like to hear we're paying our debt down instead of paying interest.
Correct.
That will get us nowhere if I borrow and won't do it. No. But we did pay it off.
Are you done with your report?
Yes, I am.
Highway Trustee Tillersack.
Okay, leaf pickup is now over for highway until next year, but for the month of November, DPW picked up leaves throughout the village. BTM performed milling and paving at Elm Street from 9D, the light on 9D to Mizzier Avenue, milling and paving at Upper Elm Street and Doxy Lane. All that work was performed in 2 days start to finish with the help of the highway workers. DPW is also flagging and closing roads, sweeping roads, helping with paving. As they do every Monday, we're emptying all the trash cans throughout the village, also picking up bags and brush throughout the village, bagged brush throughout the village. And under miscellaneous, they helped put up barricades and no parking signs for the holiday parade, worked on the leaf vac truck and box so the leaf pickups could continue, fixed and repair signs throughout the village, and right now they are prepping for snow and ice, which is the installation of sanders in trucks and servicing those trucks, prepping the walks behind sanders, everything of that nature, and we discussed the need to please, if you hear it's gonna snow, if you hear it's gonna ice, if you hear it's gonna slate, I know it's hard, but for those guys to get through with the big plows on our small streets, to please make every effort to get your cars off the streets. And Tommy, you have anything to add?
No.
That's it.
If not, it will be covered.
All right. Fire?
Trustee Marshall. You want me to read this?
Yeah,
Okay. Village Fire Department, number of incidents year to date. November, they had 49 calls. Wappers Falls Fire Department has responded mutual aid to these departments. Here they are. Houstonville Fire Department 1 time. New Hackensack 4 times. New Hamburg 143 times. That's year-to-date numbers. Mutual aid received 131 times. That's what we received. Total number of incidents year-to-date are 354 calls for service.
So I just want to touch base on why we're going mutual aid to New Hamburg and you're coming to us. In the fire department, we're hurting for members. And it's not only the village of Wappers Falls, it's pretty much everywhere, as you see in New Hamburg also. So there's an agreement between the Hamburg Fire District and the village of Wappingers. They will run on every call that the village runs on. and vice versa. We will run on every call they run on. So if we get a call, they're coming here. And if they get a call, we're going there. So sometimes they might beat us, or we might beat them. Either way, it's just the way it is nowadays. Nobody wants to volunteer, and I think it's a pretty good agreement. I mean, same thing as the police department. It's hard to find officers. It's just the way the world is nowadays. I guess nobody wants to do this job, or that job, or, it just, it is.
One thing that, on that, man, they're doing a great job, but they're running a lot, but their gas cards aren't keeping up with them. If you could raise the amount on the cheap car.
So, we could raise the amount, but there are people that take these cars to work, and there is a vehicle policy in effect, and it's a 15-mile radius, and, you know.
We have your, well, starting January, it's gonna be your future son-in-law, and,
He's gonna have to comply to the law that we passed, the driving
The
thing.
whole thing is the biggest person that's not going over, that's running out, he does a lot of calls because other people work days here, he's running out. And then we're having to use him on another car.
they're told to go take one of the trucks.
So,
Take the card out of the truck.
did the fire committee come up with a number?
I would like to give him $100.
It's,
And Jay is good.
Boy, $100 or 100 gallons.
For 100 gallons.
$100 ain't gonna get you very far.
No, 100 gallons, I'm sorry. But, you know,
Houstonville.
unless you wanna just keep having him take it out of the.
so let's,
I'm
so,
fine with
so,
it. I'm fine with it.
so let's look at the average monthly things that he's doing, that they're doing, and let's come up with a percentage of gas that he can use. I mean, right now, right now, you're at 60 gallons. So-
Just a
He
thing
comes to
that
the
they
hall.
had during the meeting, so.
He comes to the hall.
Yeah.
The kid is running.
Oh, they're all running. They're all running, but we used to have a gas bill of $4,000 a month. Now we're down to $2,300. And we had a car that drove, that had almost 200 gallons of gas in 1 month. So that's what made this thing happen like this. Because the gas would just keep climbing and climbing and climbing. Like, it's crazy. They've been talked to, and that's the way it is.
But now they're on double duty, so.
Yeah.
Just
Can't they
keep-
justify it
just
with
keep-
you if there's more calls at one point?
This has nothing to do with calls.
No, I'm saying now.
They can go over it if they need to and make a call. They're saying that we're at it a little too low. We probably should bring it up. I want to limit, but we probably should bring it up a little bit from where it is.
Yeah.
So,
That's all.
if I may make a suggestion to the board, there is a current vehicle policy that has been voted on and approved by this board, which is in place. That's what's setting the standard here. If there are questions on a policy, once it's been instituted and it's being used, then it can be revisited. And my suggestion would be that either a committee or somebody look at the vehicle policy and make recommendations as to what they think would be appropriate to the board. And then at that time, the board can decide whether or not they would like to do that. And we can update the policy accordingly and pass it by
So
resolution.
let's do it this way. We'll hang on. We'll talk to the treasurer. We'll get the gas report for the month. And we'll see how they're doing, and we can go up from there.
Yeah. I can tell you Jay's never been over.
All right.
It's either gonna be that, or I'm going to the ladder truck to take the car, and the kid will fill his tank. So you pick your bills.
Like we said, the board passed this driving thing.
Hopefully they don't run out while they're on the meeting call.
They
And
will
somebody
never
dies
happen.
because of it.
They will come here, and I will give them a call.
All right, Lake, trustee Tilisack.
No report.
Cool.
All right, safety, I'm the safety manager for the village, and in January, I'm gonna start inspecting the different facilities that the village has. And unlike the past, I'm not gonna announce what facilities they are, I'm just gonna show up, check out your operations. That's it for safety. Recreation.
Well, as you all know, we had our holiday parade and tree lighting. Thank you to the police and the fire department for participating. Thank you to all the village residents who took part. It was a good time had by all. It was really frickin' cold, but so far, hopefully everybody's being good and they'll get something from Santa. On December 26th, the village will light the menorah that's in Mizzier Park. And that's it for the month of December for recreation.
All right,
Yes.
nice job.
Water Department. Mayor.
I came late to the meeting, so I really don't have all the detail. Is Trustee Smith or?
Oh, and I thank the Parks Committee for arranging for the tree lighting.
Trustee Smith have anything, or John? Moving good? All right.
All right, sewer. I am the sewer rep, Tri-Muni rep for the village. We hold our meetings the second Thursday of the month tomorrow, and we're in the process of processing grants to get more money to increase the capacity. As you may know or may not know, there's a moratorium on new construction for those communities that are in Tri-Muni until we get the capacity situation straightened out. We're talking millions here, folks.
Yeah, but it's been.
That's it for the Tri-Muni report.
Anything in personnel?
No.
I was asked to actually take that off because they don't like to discuss personnel out
All
here.
right, I'm sorry.
Okay, Mayor, that concludes the printed portion of tonight's agenda.
All right, has anybody got anything from the board? Anybody from the public?
Can we all give a thanks to our volunteer firemen? That sounds to be a big trouble.
Hopefully we'll be able to get them to that.
Yeah.
If there are no further comments,
I actually raised my hand.
oh,
You want me to come up there?
Please do.
Rose Vansa, Dutchess Avenue. Ooh, Jesus. I wanted to find out, with reference to the police department and the state police responding in, were those calls broken down to types?
No.
They weren't? Okay. I want to also ask the board if you have decided to, and if you are definitely bringing back our midnight patrols January 1st.
Well, like I said before, yeah.
Police
Are we
patrol.
bringing the cops the first city?
Are our officers going to be manning our village come January 1st?
Yes.
This board wants to make sure that we have enough officers. Again, tonight I just received this is the calendar.
Mhm.
If this is complied, then we would.
Okay.
As long as there's officers not going over their 20 on this.
That's,
Because we can't have the officers working more than 20 hours a week, 1,040 for the year. Because this is why, the situation we're in now is because they went over their 1,040.
Well, I
And they had,
disagree with
and
why
they,
we're here, but.
and they had 6 officers that were allowed to work. And there's 3 shifts a day, and 21 shifts in a week, actually 42 if you use two.
I understand
two
the
officers.
1040 law, I understand.
So it didn't, we couldn't work a shift. So I've talked to the commissioner about moving somebody, and we couldn't move somebody because there's 2 full-timers on during a day shift. So I figured, just brainstorming out there, if we move one of the full-timers to the 4 to midnight, that might be able to work. Again, I'm not in charge of scheduling, but it might be able to work. But we couldn't do it because they bid their shifts, and
Okay, I believe we have a full-time position open, don't we? Wasn't Jen's position a full-time police officer?
yeah,
we do.
We are attempting to fill it?
I don't think,
It's up to the commissioner. He does all the stuff. He comes to the board and says, I need more people. And the board comes here. We got one tonight. And I know for a fact, because I sat in the commissioner's office, 2 weeks ago?
We hired someone tonight?
We hired somebody tonight.
Because it wasn't specific as to who that first person was, it just
Yeah.
a name was given.
Yeah, it's a
It wasn't stated that it was
It's
a
a part-time police officer, correct, Commissioner?
is-
And there's two more, there's two more in the
I'm
works.
sorry?
Maxwell Rooms.
Okay, that was the one, okay,
One more? All right, there's one more in the works.
okay,
So once they get done interviewing and investigations,
okay.
that'll come in front of this board. And the
Because
board
it,
vote on
it matters to me.
It's not like we're saying, no, you can't hire anybody.
That's what I wanted to find out.
We're
But I
not
mean,
saying,
we've had
we're
an,
not saying that.
due to certain actions of the board, and I won't go into it, we had numerous resignations, which is what actually put us where we were for our midnight, in my opinion, okay? So I don't want to see that happen again. I
Correct.
don't want to see that happen
Correct.
again. I want to know that we're actively seeking out officers. I want to know that we are treating them correctly. I want to know that the commissioner has the power that he needs and not to be undermined by a board or
So the commission,
whoever.
so how it works, and how it works since I've been on the board, the commissioner will come in front of the board and ask, or have a police committee meeting, and ask if he can hire somebody. The police committee brings it back to the board, and we agree or disagree on it, right? Usually, pretty much 9 times out of 10, we agree. I mean, no, I wouldn't even say 9 times out of 10, all the time. We agree.
Well, 'cause there's
So that
certain
gives-
manpower.
Yes, so that gives him permission to go out and find somebody. The board, only thing the board does is hiring here. The commissioner does all the other stuff.
Okay, I
We
was
don't-
under the impression you guys solicited, you put out like
That's through the,
LinkedIn, okay, so
that's through the,
that,
the police department.
yeah. I mean, because of the fact that we're part-time police department, or most of our officers, we need a deep bench. Because these people are gonna have their A jobs, and they're gonna be, more than likely, if they get kept over for that, you know, we're not gonna have the manpower. I just wanna make sure you guys are working on the manpower, because to tell you the truth, when I saw that, I wasn't happy, and you know that. Because I called you and I told you I wouldn't blame you if you didn't call me back.
Yeah.
Because that's how angry I was.
I was-
spitting angry.
I've been working with the commissioner, we've been talking.
I was spitting angry about it because that night, both myself and another resident asked you, is what's going on with the police department? And you all kind of like, nothing, you know. And then the next morning, we get notified our midnights are no longer there.
That comes from a safety factor.
I know what happened. I know why. You can't,
Like Levy, he
you
just
can't
left
pull
the area.
manpower out of the street. I get that. I get that. My point is, I don't want to see the new commissioner undermined by anybody on this board because they think they know better than someone that was hired because of his experience.
You gotta understand one thing. When I ran at the police department for 12 years, we ran with Jeff O'Kite, we had one full-timer, and the rest were all part. So we had a lot of part-timers. I just seen Pat Nesbitt down in Fishkill. That was a bike patrol. That guy used to pull cars over at the red light on a bicycle.
We had a lot of officers before they all resigned, when the board took the action they did.
Well, I wasn't here in,
You were?
no, when? When they went to midnight?
No, not that particular meeting. I'm talking about rehiring someone that you knew or the board knew would produce that.
Officer Weaver,
So, several things, what I'd like to get to in council, you can address me, if you'd like. I'd like to, from the floor, representing the PBA, see if the board is willing to open up resolution 3924 for public discussion. But before we get to that, the full-time officer's position has been rumored to have been eliminated. Is that or is that not true? Can somebody answer that, please?
I would like to say that we try to stick with part-time. Because of the finance.
I understand that, so, for public record, has the full-time position that was occupied by Detective Sergeant Farrell been eliminated from this village? Has that position been eliminated?
We had a discussion, I'm just bringing no more, but once the full-timers left, that was it. That's all.
Again, I'm asking the question.
If it was eliminated, we can always bring it back,
Okay,
okay? It's basically called cleaning up the books. It's not having a position just sitting in the books. If you're gonna hire a full-timer, you can bring it back.
so the position's been budgeted to June 1st of 2025, correct?
Correct.
All right, so along with that, all the part-time officers that were laid off or furloughed on November 15th, those positions are also funded, correct? Through to June 1st, 2025. So that money should still be in the coffers, correct, for those 6 positions that we've been furloughed because of the decision that was made by the county and forced upon the village. So the funds are still there, correct?
Some, because
I mean, I guess maybe yes and maybe no, because it's basically, you're allowed to work 1,040. So you have what you make a salary a year, that's what you're allowed to have.
Right now,
And you're going, then it's going over, so.
positions were allocated, so there are other officers, so are you allocating for the budget 1,040 hours for each one of those part-time positions?
That's the way it should be,
Because
1,040.
It should be.
Yeah.
Prior to that, we had the ability to exceed that during COVID. We had the ability to exceed that 20 years ago. And there were also threats made of, oh, we're gonna come after your homes, or we're gonna shut you guys down, we're gonna fine you dollar for dollar. My understanding through reliable sources in the county was, the quote was, that we're not gonna take any action against the autonomous police department in the village of Wappingers Falls. They can have as many people as they want to work to ensure the safety of the citizens and the transients that come through the village here on a daily basis, going to their jobs, shopping, spending their money in here, but yet we're not providing them the service that the taxpayers have voted you 7 folks in to ensure the safety of them exists 24/7.
So I,
Excuse me, Mayor, along comes November 15th, because the county has shoved this down your throats, put the fear of God in all of you. If we work, and you put the safety of your own families, because you're all village residents, you put the safety of yourselves, and people that drive through here on a daily basis at risk. Now, with the stats that are here, by showing that the state police answered, and again, not mentioning the agency, but it's there, that you guys have voted and elected to transfer the phone to the state police. The numbers are here on the stats that have been advised to you, correct? We all know that, we heard that, but that doesn't show or reflect the traffic stops, the vehicle break-ins that we've had in the past that have been thwarted because of local police officers cruising the streets and doing their job, going to Home Depot after hours, driving through the lot, going to job lot, driving through the lot, preventing larcenies, et cetera, et cetera. These are happening on the overnight. Our officers are out there doing the job up until November 15th. Now, you pick up a phone, you make a phone call, and no offense to any one of the adjoining agencies that will respond here to a 911 dispatch, you do not have that immediate response. And with the 12 to 8 tour being either eliminated or left out in this resolution, hence why I've asked to reopen it so the public can hear, because my understanding is you just made an amendment to a 3-year to 2-year agreement with the Flox camera system in the resolution. Council right here made a motion to say this is what you need to do. So let's do the same thing. Withdraw the resolution as it's written, regardless of what you're being advised by somebody who's not here in attendance. Add the 12 to 8 tour in writing, in public. Do it now. And therefore, we have no issues when it comes December 31st into January 1st. All that we are asking as PBA and the CSCA is add the 12 to 8 shift to ensure, as what Trustee Marshall just said, and what the mayor has mentioned too, we are bringing our officers that have been furloughed because the county said we were over hours back to work. The mayor, the police committee, and the commissioner will work on the 20 or 24 hour or 1,040 hours, whatever, to ensure that this village is safe and secure with its own officers, the people that live here, work here, reside closely here, no families here. They put their heart and their soul and their lives to this village, and they need to be respected for that, put them back in their positions, allow them to work, and let's get back to work on January 1st.
yes, that's what.
so let me ask a question, or not ask a question, I'm not gonna ask a question, I wanna tell you what, when I called Dutchess County Civil Service, not called, I emailed Steve Rector. And he then called me and said, we need an in-person meeting And I said, that'll work for me. I said, and I was off all week. I mean, when Detective Weaver, or not, McHugh, that I pretty much spent the week with the police department trying to help you guys. I've sat in my office with the Dutchess County Human Resource Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner. I begged and pleaded for help for 2 months. Could you just help us out? And they didn't say no, but they didn't say yes either. They said, this has been going on too long in this village. And what scared me the most, okay, was that if they come and the state comes down here and audits our stuff, I pay. Not the taxpayers of this village. I pay. Nope, not the board. I pay, and the treasurer pays. Okay? Now listen, I'm a fireman. I will go into anyone's house here in the village, or in the town, or anywhere, and drag somebody out. But I'm not losing my family home. I'm not putting my family out of a home to have officers work overtime or over their hours, because it's not fair to me, because I lose out. I know we all lost the midnight tour, but I'm losing a home. I pay taxes in this village. I feel the burden of what everybody else is feeling. It's just, I couldn't do it. I couldn't let you men go over any more hours. I worked with this commissioner, and
You made calls to Sue Serino.
Sue Serino, right? Detective Weaver knows. I mean, Detective Weaver knows. I spent the whole vacation every day with the police department, talking to the commissioner, talking to Detective Weaver, talking to Detective McHugh. Like, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? All right, I'll call. I reached out to everybody as possible. And basically, it's Dutchess County putting us to the fire.
That ends in 20 days.
Yes.
So that's.
That ends in 20 days, so that's why I want to stick to 20 hours a week, 1,040 a year. This way, next October, we don't never have to revisit this again.
Listen, can I say something? I said, I was just in Fishkill talking to a bunch of cops, everybody. They got their overtime. Why? Because they listen to civil service. We keep doing the same darn thing over and over. We gotta stop it. I don't wanna see doing this.
And again, as the PBA vice president, this is in your folks' hands, to work with the commissioner, work with the PBA to meet that. And that includes, you've hired somebody tonight, you hired somebody last month who's working out very well. Additionally, I'm asking you, council, can we reopen the resolution, address it in public? We just made information in council available to the board members stating that they could change a resolution that's right here in this packet from 3 hours to 2 hours. Well, let's do the same thing. Let's add the 12 to 8 tour and call it a night. Somebody, you have council right here, do it.
Yeah, but
That motion was tabled to the end of the agenda.
For executive session, I understand.
Well, no, it was, the resolution itself was tabled to the end of the agenda after an executive session where the board is going to seek advice from its labor council.
So let us get into executive session and do that.
Yeah.
That would
Just
expedite
have them on
this.
the phone, so. My concern was, made a motion, opened the resolution, made a change for the commissioner, based on the information that's documented right here. Same thing can be done with what just occurred.
You can make amendments to resolutions, correct?
There it is.
You can.
Just said that, council, so let's do it. Make the amendment
No.
to the resolution to add the 12 to 8 tour.
What you're requesting, the board is going to seek advice of council for. Specifically, what you're asking them to do right now by this is to make that amendment without advice of council, and I would highly recommend that that does not happen.
You've made that recommendation, the board has the option, am I right, Mr. Clerk?
Correct.
To do that without council. Council's already stated that I advise not to do it against the advice of council. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Clerk, you have the opportunity right now to add the 12 to 8 shift. Against the advice of council, what is the problem? All we're doing is adding the shift to ensure CSEA members retain their employment and serve this village as they've been sworn to do.
Again,
Somebody step up and add the 12 to 8 shift.
but the board wants to talk to the council.
You have, right here, state against council, but step
Yeah,
up
yeah,
and do it.
if they want to talk to our labor council, then they want to talk to our labor council.
Trustee's got him on the phone right now. My concern is, why doesn't anybody want to do it? That tells me that there's some underlying factor
When we go,
pertaining to that. Was it inadvertently left out?
So we'll go up, we're going to go in executive session, and we're going to talk about it with our labor
I
council.
appreciate the invite, thank you.
You got to be invited by the board first.
And as a taxpayer, I wish you get your legal advice, because I don't want no more lawsuits, because I don't want to pay for them. And another thing I want to ask you, in your budget, you have a line item of revenue that comes in from the police department. What's the revenue that she projected for tickets if they don't have cops? Is she gonna be off in that revenue? So that, I mean, what did she project for revenue? And if we're short on that, we're gonna have to pick up money somewhere. That's all she put in, okay, so she can put in again.
Just another point
Correct.
about not having coverage on third shift from the police department. If we have a snowstorm, who's gonna write the tickets to have the cars towed that are illegally parked?
We'd have to depend on our highway super or highway foreman. Well, let's go in executive session.
I make the motion, we go into executive session?
Well, I wanna, can I say one thing first?
Hold it.
Hold on, this,
What are we doing with third chief car now? Where's that going?
That's going to the building department.
Don't you already have to?
We're giving the building department that car, and we're moving his car, and that'll be for the highway super. And we're taking the highway super's truck and putting it into the fleet.
Do you have a new highway?
We're gonna talk about that in executive session also.
You're taking the highway trucks, giving it to the police department.
No. We're taking the old highway super truck, we're putting that into the fleet. We're giving it the highway.
So I have a car to hold my tools.
All right, so we get a motion to go into executive
Well, I
session.
wanted to say
I make a
something.
motion, we go into executive session?
Can I say something?
I have something to say.
As a co-worker with Courtney Bove, did an outstanding job. I think we should write a letter of recommendation for her on her way to Tennessee. That's all.
Okay, sounds
Got
good.
a motion to go in exec, trustee Tillishek?
For a second? I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
John, thank you.
The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return.
All right.
Where's Bob?
Hang on.
Let's continue to report.
Are we back
Is he
recording?
outside there?
Yeah, he said he was close, right?
Oh, he's right here.
Or not, Rich.
You ready, Rich? All right.
Yeah, we're
He's here.
good.
Come on.
First motion to come out of executive session.
Can I get a motion to come out of executive session?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Joe, you got the minutes, right?
Who made the motion?
Walter? All right. Making a motion on resolution 39/2024 of 2024, resolution of the Village of Walker Falls Board of Trustees, whereas the CSEA, CEA, Article 5, Section 1 states that the employee department head will establish the employee's work schedule, which may differ from normal hours of operation of the department depending upon the particular needs and requirements of the department. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Nope, discussion.
All discussion?
So,
Wait,
Discussion?
Joe.
So, I'm sorry, I was writing. The amendment is, now therefore be it, further resolved that in the event that the midnight shift will be reinstated for the police, the dispatchers will also be reinstated to the midnight shift with the permanent hours of 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. Yes, thank you.
As far as structure, that will be, as far as structure, that will be after the first, now therefore be it resolved, the second
The last
resolved paragraph will be the language that was just written.
Can you repeat that again, please?
So,
Just,
me or him?
it goes
Oh,
down here.
okay.
The language.
Second to the last paragraph, there's gonna be another, now therefore be it resolved, is that correct?
Yes. So we're adding another resolved paragraph.
And it will reflect that the 12 to 8 shift has been added to that.
It will be the exact language that he just read.
Can you repeat that again, please? I'm so sorry.
You can't turn it like that.
Now therefore be it further resolved that in the event that the midnight shift will be reinstated for the police, the dispatchers will be reinstated permanently to the midnight shift of the hours of 12 a.m. to 8 a.m.
Did it say if
If
the police are,
or when? When? So it reflected in the language, that the midnight shift
No.
is being
Reinstated.
reinstated, the dispatchers go with them.
what do you mean by if in the event? that
Hold-
they-
hold-
No.
This isn't,
A given.
what he
so
read,
that's-
he is making a motion to amend the current resolution with the specific language that he just read.
okay.
That language and that amendment now needs, well, he made the motion, needs a second, and then it needs a vote.
I'll make a second.
Can you read that one more time, please? I apologize. Just so that- Now therefore be it further resolved that in the event that the midnight shift will be reinstated for the police, the dispatchers will be reinstated to the midnight with the permanent hours of 12 a.m. to 8 a.m.
Okay, is there a motion?
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, so now we need a motion on the resolution as amended.
I make the motion
I'll second it.
as the resolution is amended.
Yep,
All in favor?
well, the first,
He
second, all in
seconded.
favor?
I'll
He
second.
seconded.
Okay, all right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And the next resolution,
Oh,
the other,
Grievances.
the other tabled resolution, which it's,
if I get a motion on to resolve that the village board hereby ratifies the agreement with the CSEA dated December 2nd, 2024. Can I get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, can I get a motion to go back into executive session?
Make that motion.
so that motion should be made, my understanding that's for personnel matters?
Yeah,
Legal
personnel
advice with
matters.
regards to
Yep.
personnel matters, and,
What? Yeah, personnel matters and water board.
okay.
They're not saying.
Did we make the second and vote on going back to executive?
Yeah.
All right.
Second and vote?
Yeah.
Okay. Personnel?
Personnel and water board stuff.
We got more stuff, because wait, not everybody has to wait.